Depends on the way. Good afternoon, everyone. It is 1 o'clock. We have a long day ahead of us, so I don't want to belabor the point. So I will turn it over to Dr. Robinson, Mr. Scott, and you all can go from there. Good afternoon.
Thank you, sir. Chair Swanson, Vice Chair Hershey, and esteemed board members, I want to begin by acknowledging the significant progress that the Office of Security has made in strengthening the safety across our district. Since the transition in leadership, there has been a clear focus on building both infrastructure and systems that improve our ability to prevent, respond to, and manage emergencies. We have implemented several key initiatives that are already making a meaningful impact. These include the deployment of a district-wide visitor management system, the expansion of mobile panic alert capabilities through RAVE, and the continued use of See Something, Say Something, which has strengthened our ability to identify and respond to potential concerns. Additionally, enhancements to our standard response protocol and the introduction of command vehicles have improved coordination and response during critical incidences. We have also made important strides in communication and preparedness, including upgrading emergency radio systems and beginning improvements to our district command center to better manage multiple incidences simultaneously. Looking ahead, there are several strategic priorities that will require both alignment and investment. A district-wide reassessment of our safety posture, which has not been conducted since 2019. Exploration of a weapons detection system as an additional layer of protection. A re-examination of our security staffing model, including the structure of our Allied Universal Partnership. Development of a district reunification team to strengthen our response following critical incidences. The implementation of a district-wide mass emergency communication system, which is currently a challenge in our infrastructure. Establishing a consistent funding stream for school-based security infrastructure needs rather than placing the burden on individual schools. These are not enhancements for convenience. They are foundational to ensuring a safe and secure learning environment for every student and for every staff member. As we continue our work, it will be critical that we align our safety priorities with our resource allocation and make strategic decisions about where we invest to have the greatest impact. In closing, I want to thank Mr. Scott for his leadership in the Office of Security and his commitment of his department. This work that I'm referring to is very complex. This work is urgent, and this work is essential. I look forward to our continued collaboration as we strengthen our systems and ensure that safety remains at the forefront of our efforts. At this time, I will turn this over to Mr. Scott, who will take us through today's presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. I'd like to do some introductions before we get started. I'd like to introduce first Mr. Christian Young. He is our new Director of Special Operations and has been with the district for about a couple of months now, 2 months. His responsibilities are going to be things like he oversees the SRO program, emergency management, training of the SRP that's coming out, our emergency ops plans. Also does a lot of work with our field senior administrators as well as our Director of Operations. And I'd also like to introduce Dr. Corliss Thompson-Drew. I will let her explain a little bit more about what she does exactly for the district so I don't mess up what you do.
Okay, well, I supervise school psychology services, but as part of my plate of responsibilities, I work around school safety and crisis response, specifically things such as behavioral threat assessment, suicide risk assessment. I also manage our Say Something Anonymous reporting system, youth mental health first aid, and anything that falls under that around school safety, just making sure that our students are emotionally well and safe and we can respond to their needs in a timely manner.
Dr. Thompson-Drew. So as by normal, I will typically stay on I present. So today, I'm going to give you, the committee members are going to be able to connect the See Something, Say Something application directly to the strategic plan. I think it's important that anytime that we do initiatives that we have a roadmap back to why we're doing this. And we'll also develop understanding of how the Say Something application works and its use in WCPSS, and we'll even go a little bit deeper dive into that when we go into closed session today. So how is this aligning to our strategic plan? So core belief number 4 speaks most of a culture of continuous improvement. And how this is an improvement of what we used to have is our tip line that's been here for as long as I've been here. It's just the old, call this number and provide us information. And I think the committee members of the board remember back years ago, we indicated that students prefer not to have to call somebody, they like to text. And so we had to upgrade that capability. There's an alignment of that support of culture of continuous improvement that the Say Something application was brought to our district. Our priority number 3 in the strategic plan is operational effectiveness, and we're putting in place a structure and process to provide a timely and consistent service. And I definitely tell you that the Say Something application is much more timely than our old call-in and leave a report number with our security contractor. Alignment, again, is going to be that the structure and processes provide a consistent, comprehensive response to emergency information. And our aim is that this is an improvement of a safety plan. It's an upgrade to improvement of our previous telephone tip line that is better aligned with how students communicate today. One of the other things I think I'd like to point out about the difference between the Say Something application and our old tip line phone number is tip line phone number was only just used for security things. The Say Something application, it's picked up all kinds of different things that our students had needs to report to us, and you're going to see some of that in the information involved. So the Say Something application, it was launched in 2024. When this presentation was put together, we received about 257 tips. Accepts tips via text, phone call, and through the application. It receives more tips vastly than even though our tip line for our district is operated 24/7, this is far eclipsed the amount of information that comes into the district now. Call center, which is located in Florida, notifies our school and our district level response teams and law enforcement. It increases the response time dramatically. The way that the old tip line would work is a phone call came in and multiple phone calls had to be made to individual people through a phone tree, through a call tree, and until all those were made, then action was taken. This application notifies a lot of folks at one time, which reduces the speed. And the tips are tracked in real time via the dashboard. The other thing with our phone number, phone call went to the Lawn Monitoring Center over at Rock Quarry Road. One person took the information, wrote a report. This application, most times several people are looking at, not just those that are responding, to know that something has come through, and you can watch in real time the tips are speaking to the call center and the information is being passed along. So the tips are handled in cross collaboration with the Office of Security and Student Support Services, which is why I've asked Dr. Thompson-Drew to be here, because again, this is really driven from our shop, but I'm sharing with you my side of the application of how we utilize it from a security perspective. It came at no cost to us, which is another beautiful thing. The state has funded this, and it's been in play again since 2024. And the tips cover many situations, but we've the call center has kind of compressed those into 2 main buckets. So what you're going to see is just think of bucket of student, they're going to call it student behavior, but it's not violations of student conduct. This is what they call those things. And then you're going to see what we call security-related things, which are going to be the stuff that falls kind of in my shop. And so this is a breakdown of those total tips that we've received so far. So what you're going to see here is what they're calling the student behavioral thing, which is the suicide stuff, the more mental health component pieces. That falls under what they're calling student behavior. 61% of what comes in through that is in that shop. And then I've got roughly 40% of it so far has fallen into my shop. So the Say Something application is part of a multi-strategy comprehensive approach to enhancing school safety in our district. We continue to evaluate our processes, and this is one of the latest developments of a product that's helped build that capacity and infrastructure throughout our district. I also wanted to just bring to your attention just a few of the other things that we've brought to the district over the past couple of years. You know, we talked before about the High school event bag, clear bag policy, that's already active. The See Something application completed and active. We're constantly working towards better staff emergency communication upgrade. That's in progress and ongoing. We have some infrastructure projects that we'll probably talk a little bit about in closed session today, which are in planning stages. And then, of course, the Way Path Alert, and all of this will tie into part of what we're going to go over in greater detail in the closed session. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions that you all have about the Say Something application.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Scott. Any questions regarding See Something, Say Something? Ms. Kaufman?
Just a quick question. You said that the state is providing the money for that. Is that for a pilot or is that just permanently?
So I don't know if I'd use the word permanently. It's in place, and I haven't heard anything that it's going to ever go away. I'm looking at Michelle Woodson that said it's probably going to be here for.
It's a part of legislation, actually. That's
Good.
what it's been here for.
So, yeah,
Right,
that's
so it was legislated, I think it was just before the pandemic, that all districts adopt an anonymous reporting system, and they had very specific requirements for what that system should look like. And again, it's no cost to any school district, so it's going to be around. There's no cost to us for anything that we use around it.
Great.
And so this is actually what we will call a funded mandate. The General Assembly passed the legislation and put the funding there where they would provide the Say Something Anonymous app. Now, a district could choose to use something different if they wanted to, but it had to be in compliance with the legislation. So what Wake was using did not completely have compliance with the legislation. So I think it was 2023, 24 when we brought it fully on board to where it is now used, and we are in compliance. And so we don't pay for a separate product, and we are in compliance, and it's paid for fully by the state.
Great. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? So I just had one, for those that are not quite familiar with the See Something, Say Something, can you connect the dots for folks who may be listening? When a student submits something anonymously, who are the folks who are responsible for handling those concerns?
Would you like me to respond?
Sure.
Okay. So the Say Something Anonymous reporting system can be accessed in a couple of ways. A student may text, they may call a line, or they may just do it on the web. When a tipster, and it could be a student, and actually can be an adult, it could be anybody, this is a nationwide system actually, it can be anyone that has a relationship with our school system, right, and want to report some concerning behavior. So when the tipster dials in, texts or whatever, the crisis call center is in Florida. It immediately goes to one of their trained crisis counselors, and these are expertly trained. They are recognized within American Association of Suicidology. They've given them their credentials training. They take all that information, so they run through a series of questions with the tipster in an attempt to determine whether this is a life safety tip. If it's a life safety, they want to deal with that immediately, right? Or non-life safety. On the opposite end, the district has, every school has a team, middle and high schools, because it's just middle and high school. So they have identified a team. If it is a life safety tip, that tip is immediately routed by text and a phone call to the responsible team, right? There's also immediate response to our law enforcement, often for a safety check, because again, those are immediate kinds of things. So there's a constant communication, as Kendrick pointed out. There's a communication dashboard. The school folks, whoever is called to respond, they can go in, they can actually see the conversation. If that person uploads pictures or drawings or things like that, of that nature, they can see that. And because it's anonymous, we don't know who is calling, and that's one of the beauty of the system, because kids feel okay to respond that way. Sometimes if we do need to get information, we're able to get information about who the student is concerned about. They might give us a first name or grade level. What the school will then do is often go into our student information system, identify that appropriate student, and then our safety protocols then apply. So if it's during the school day, and if it's a student who we are concerned might have suicidal ideation, our teams are trained to know what to do to address that. If it's something that has to do with a planned school attack or a weapon and those kinds of things, that goes to Kendrick and his team, and then our safety protocols kick in. So part of the thing that has worked beautifully for us is that because we have an Office of Security, we have worked very closely to make sure that our processes are integrated into that. So there's always someone at our end, whether it's a life safety, non-life safety, security involved, or whatever, that can pick that up immediately, and our protocols will come in. So it's very much a wraparound kind of thing.
Thank you. Any questions for Daniel?
So, Mr. Chair,
Just a couple of things. Go ahead.
okay, well, what I will share is that one of the concerns of the principals initially is what they felt would be a high volume of calls. And so we received a lot of pushback on that. But what I had to share with them is that, first of all, it's part of the legislation. So there's really no way around it. And they do really triage something that has to have an immediate response versus something that can wait for the next day. So that was kind of their concern. What if I get a call at 3 o'clock in the morning about suicide and I miss it? But I know Michelle and I were able to kind of walk them through that process. And so what they've seen is sort of a peak volume initially when it rolled out, but now it's really leveled out. And I don't know if you want to talk about what those numbers look like. But that was one of the concerns that's now been.
Yeah, I don't have the immediate numbers for us, but just to clarify further in terms of what you're saying, because there was a concern, right? And so I'm a principal, I get a call at 3 o'clock when I miss it. Life happens, we're sleeping, we're on vacation, whatever. What we do recommend is that they rotate the team, so there's always somebody who's like the first person up. We do the same thing on our district team. Every month we rotate, so one person is up for that month, and they kind of expect calls. But the fallback is always the district team. So if they try to contact someone on the school team, and they're not able to reach someone, then the next call will go to someone on the district team. Again, somebody who was that first person up. And again, helping people to recognize, and that we couldn't get around not doing this, but we can have systems and structures in place that allow people to do that. And one of that is making sure you have your team is updated, that you are put into place things that would help if people are out, right? So again, as I said, life happens. Sometimes people go on vacation, so if your team knows that, then they won't be in that rotation, and we do the same thing with our district team. The numbers, of course, when we put anything new in place, you expect to see an uptick. That is not unusual, and kids are kids. They're going to try it out, right? So we did have a number of false reports and misuse, and we did have to send something out and ask our schools to share that. Since then, it's pretty much leveled off. Most of our tips are non-life safety tips, and the top tips when there are life safety tends to be suicidal ideation, and then further down in terms of, maybe threats to school and those kinds of things. So
I would just share that from the security perspective of it, we've had the old 856-1911 number around for a long time. It was comparative to what we see now, hardly used. I'm very pleased to see kids reporting things that they see, and I think that students and parents alike, I think they really questioned a little bit of it. Now, obviously, when you got to call somebody and talk to them that's in Wake County, it's a little different than using this. So I see a great benefit of how much more information we get now that we can act on. From my shop, we have the alarm monitoring center over Rock Quarry Road is staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That phone rings, there is somebody that's picking it up. My team also has an on-call roster. They've got one of our security administrators on call every night, and we get them all hours of the night, weekends, holidays. But our world doesn't stop, so it doesn't matter when it comes in. We act on them. Very tight relationship with law enforcement. They've been trained on what this is, and a lot of the SROs through the SRO Coalition, they have downloaded the app and they use it all the time because it's that way for them. If something happens at 2 o'clock in the morning, well, the SRO is not going to be the one to get that. It's going to go to the dispatch center. They're sending out XYZ police department. Well, that SRO supervisor that's in that district, his phone's going to go off. You can go look at it, like, okay, I know tomorrow morning I've already got something I got to do first thing in the morning. And he'll be able to see all of the actions that his agency took that night at 2 in the morning to deal with whatever was reported. So it's a vast improvement over what we had when it was all these individual silos making 10 phone calls to 10 different people to get one piece of action moved at 2 o'clock in the morning, which is what we used to have to do. Now that's automated. Great system.
And this, just to be clear, does not directly impact the legislation that says students can't interfere with their phones during the school day. So if an emergency does happen, a student would be able to still use their phone to text this anonymous app, even though the legislation says that kids can't have their, students can't have their phones out. Is that correct?
And I want to say that the legislation does talk about emergency situations and what students can do, so that would be the impact, so good point.
I will say that most of our tips are received after school hours, so like 3:30. And so one of the wonderings we had in our last district meeting was, why our students are not maybe reporting earlier, because one of the things is not just solely relying on the application. That's fine, it's great, it's a wonderful way for them to do it anonymously. But the training also teaches them to reach out to a trusted adult. And there are trusted adults in the building, whether it's an administrator or student service staff, something of that nature. So we want to make sure that our students are reporting in a timely manner. So a couple of recommendations out of our district team was to maybe toss this question to our youth mental health advisory and some other student groups to kind of see what they're saying. Is it that people really don't want to report during the school day, but I'm telling most of the calls and the tips come in 3:30 to 6:30. So whether they're waiting until after school or whatever, but it would be interesting to see what the young folks have said as to why maybe they're not reporting earlier in the day.
Thank you. Any other final comments or questions about this? Well, we're just grateful that this is one of those funded mandates from the state that is changing lives, and hopefully it will continue. And thank you for the work that you do to help support students and making sure that those emergencies are taken care of and that the students are utilizing this. So we will transition to our next topic.
Thank you, sir. So great segue into this topic. So we know back in February we had an incident at one of our high schools that was highly publicized. We're going to discuss in much deeper detail in our closed session. But this is an incident that happened at Millbrook High School. After that incident and how this kind of connects to the Say Something application, this incident was driven and started by that application. After the incident happened, this is probably my 20 years, the first time I have seen this, and I wanted to show you all the gratitude that the community, the parents and the students felt towards how this incident unfolded. They put together a digital thank you card that they sent basically to the district, to the Raleigh Police Department, and to Millbrook High School. So I just wanted to share with you just a couple of the slides. This is massive. I would almost say get your tissue out if you read the entire thing, because it's very, very powerful to see the statements that some of these parents have made from this incident. So this is over 100 slides. So obviously I'm not going to go through all 100 of them. I'll just give you a snippet of what's in here so that you'll see it. But it's just a digital thank you card that's going to reflect the gratitude of students and families for their unwavering dedication to care provided by the staff at Millbrook High School. And these are just, again, there's over 100 of these in here. So I'll just give you a moment to take a look at these. A lot of them were signed, some of them were not. I won't go through the longer ones, but again, thank you for keeping our children safe. Thank you for all of our children being safe. Thank you for the quick response, communicating as much as you could during this difficult time of our school. Continue to think of all the students and faculty. Again, I'm going to skip over the longer ones. I'm not going to read all these, but just a few. Thank you for your strength, leadership, and appreciation. Commending the Raleigh Police Department, again, Millbrook faculty for handling the situation. Again, this goes on and on. It's one after the other of folks that have thanked the school for that day. If you have the time to read through them, it is very, very powerful. I've read every single one of them. I would be doing a disservice if I didn't give a large shout out to Officer Kirk, who is the SRO at Millbrook High School. He was recognized at the superintendent's state of schools address, but I think anytime I can shine a light on someone who's done a positive thing to keep students safe, I'd like to do that. So I would say that Officer Kirk did a phenomenal job, and you're going to get, again, a little bit more detail into that in the closed session. Also, Dr. Saunders and his administration at the school. Phenomenal job of keeping the building safe. There's a lot of kids there that day that his staff worked with, again with mine, to keep the school safe that day. And it's just, again, it will go on and on. I would again implore you to read through those if you have the opportunity, because it is a very, very rare thing that I see this type of gratitude displayed to the school for safe handling of an emergency. So with that, that was going to take us to the end of our opening session part, and so I'll throw back to you, Judge Swanson, for...
Perfect. I'm just letting Attorney Malone know that we're heading to closed session, so you can join us shortly. But before we go there, I do need to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the February 10th Safety and Security meeting. So at that point, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved. Second.
So it's a motion by the Vice Chair, seconded by Mr. Hegarty. Any discussion regarding those minutes? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor of the minutes, approving the minutes, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The minutes pass. So now, so now I will entertain a motion to hit in the closed session to formulate plans related to the prevention of school violence through the development of emergency plans under the North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, Section A8. Is there a motion to go into closed session for that reason there?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Hegarty, seconded by Ms. Gordon. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We're now in closed session.